The band.
from, from back in the day, like way back, way back.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure if I've heard of them. Yeah.
they're just
I don't know.
literally called like the band, written. Well, I don't have to write it out for you. They're called the band, and they actually used to be Bob Dylan's backing band,
Oh,
right?
really?
And that's how they kind of got that name. Is that Bob Dylan used to like refer to them as like, the band, right? That's the band there, or whatever, right? Like,
Hmm.
so then when they went off and did their own thing, they just called themselves the band. But they got songs like "The Weight" is one. It's the one like the chorus is like "Take a load off Annie."
Oh, yeah. That's a good song. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Cripple Creek is another one.
There's a
Uh,
there's a documentary called "It Might Get Loud" with Jack White and Jimmy Page, and they sing that song "Take a Load Off Mary" together.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
that's
was pretty cool. It
cool
was
that they sing it together. That's it.
that was
That's
cool.
cool. Yeah, yeah. And the other one that people might know is "The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down" is another big one by them. Anyway, I saw this. It was actually a cover band that did. The band did this thing back in the day called the Last Waltz. That was basically their last concert together, right? That was actually recorded by Martin Scorsese,
Oh,
uh,
interesting.
and turned into like a whole documentary on the band, and it was called The Last Waltz.
Huh.
And so I saw a cover band perform basically The Last Waltz, and I knew, I knew it was going to be good because you just don't take on you just don't take on performing The Last Waltz unless you're good. Like you probably like to even know what it is and then like decide to take it on, you'd have to at least be good. What I didn't uh, estimate or expect is that these guys were actually amazing, and some of them even knew members of the band. Actually, they were quite closely connected with the band. Like one of the guys, the drummer's dad, was like the one of the roadies for the band and stuff.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, and the piano player like was talking about how he helped. He was like, I recorded this album for the piano player of the original band, the band, right? Yeah, so yeah, that was the last concert I went to, and it was like it actually blew my expectations out of the water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How did your post go this week on LinkedIn? I was a little bit like inactive this week. I only posted like once, but anything pop off or still doing? I know you're on a roll with all the
Yeah.
shit lately, so like and the satire I fucking love. So, was it the same kind of? Do you mix it up too, or do you kind of like? It seems like it's easy to get into that groove of kind of just pumping that out or whatever once you're in that, but you still try to mix it up a little bit and as part of your strategy, or
Yeah. Um, yeah, so like this week, if I just actually even like yeah, this week's been good, and I didn't do anything too clickbaity. I didn't have to do anything too clickbaity to get some good traction. I actually uh, I actually got an inbound lead
oh hell yeah.
yesterday, right? So it is kind of that mix of
Did they tell you like it was just from content or what?
he didn't tell me either way, but it would have been from content. Like
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
although we were already connected. See, this is kind of how it works, right? You may have like sent out connection requests to your ICP at one point and had a bunch of people like connect with you, right? And then you're putting out this content, and you know it's different from how it was in 2025. So you can't just I can't just write an offer post and have it like
Pop
pop
off.
on, right?
that was like that was like the golden era. Now I thinking back on it, right?
Yeah, man, it almost seems like in hindsight now it almost seems like yeah, I don't really understand why they even let that happen for a period of time. But it's just kind of like they hadn't reached this sort of when a platform reaches like, I don't know, like a certain user, like a certain base where it's kind of like they reach a peak and it's kind of like, all right, now let's optimize for more ads.
Holy shit.
Hell yeah, good to see you.
That was so weird. Sorry to interrupt. It just...
Oh no, not at all. Glad you're here. Mike was talking about an inbound lead that he got this week, and then kind of just some of his content that he's been killing it with the satire shit. So I was just asking him if he's been doing the same thing this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually, on a related subject, do you guys know? I don't know if you know this because you guys spend a little bit less time on LinkedIn these days, right? LinkedIn just introduced a feature, and it's if you click on the three dots at the top of a post, any post on LinkedIn. Not everybody has this feature yet, but you click on the three dots, and it has a seems like AI slop button. Do you know this?
No. What
yeah. I've seen like 20 people post about this in the last 2 days. Like everybody on LinkedIn is talking about this.
I posted about it yesterday, and I just posted about it again today. So my one yesterday was
hilarious.
I don't have the seems like slop feature yet. With great power comes great responsibility, and it appears LinkedIn doesn't trust me with that kind of power at my fingertips. Honestly, though, I have mixed feelings about the thing. I feel like a lot of people will go on a rampage with it and start using it to penalize people that they don't like, not because the person's content necessarily reads like slop, just because they don't like their face. Maybe I'm wrong. And then today I also just wrote, since I don't have the seems like slop button yet, I'm just going to start commenting that on every post, comment, or article with an M dash, rocket emoji, or the word leverage. Should make some friendly discourse. Yeah. So yeah.
Seems like AI slop, M dash, M dash, M dash, M dash.
What is LinkedIn trying to get us all to like fight each other? What?
Man, like the fact that like it's actually like it's comical that LinkedIn of all platforms just dropped that. Like they literally have built in like, would you like to rewrite this with AI prompts? And then they're giving people a tool to label shit as like seems like AI slop.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody start a brand off that. This like seems like slop merch. I almost posted that today as my.
Can we get a definition for what is AI slop to you guys? Like, because I don't even know what the fuck that means.
I feel like I'm not that surprised that LinkedIn did this because I feel like I see the most AI slop on LinkedIn, and maybe I'm just like biased or whatever, but I feel like I see it more in the comments though than in the actual content. And maybe that's just because like I've curated my content to not follow people whose content I don't like. But LinkedIn is the worst for like AI slop comments where like, I mean, you guys know what it looks like. It's like somebody basically just reiterates exactly what your post said, but they say it in their weird AI language. And you're like, okay, what's the point of this comment? Or yeah, that's a really common one. I see it more in the comments than in the actual content, but I think it's funny that LinkedIn added this because I see the most AI slop on LinkedIn, and I guess maybe it causes a lot of like discord between people. Like people talk about it all the time, so they're like, okay, well, let's just do something about it then, and then people will finally talk about something else.
Yeah. I think that there's probably a lot of people on LinkedIn who don't treat it like a form of art. Like, there's probably actually a lot of like founders actually who are just kind of like, I know I need to be posting something like, and there's like a lot of founders who even will write content themselves, like use AI to write their own content, and and some of the founders are actually the worst culprits. Like I've seen content where the founder is writing it himself. Well, I say he's writing himself. He's writing it with ChatGPT or whatever himself, and it is very clear that it's just generated with AI. So like they're not treating it like it's some form of like art or anything like that. They're just kind of like, I know I need to be posting on there, and because it's the business platform, there's just a lot of people who are trying to get it done, get it done cheap and fast, and post something up there. So because so many people are treating it like that, as opposed to I think more like the way that people I'm interested in following on the platform treat it, where it's kind of like that intersection of business and art. I mean, it sounds funny to refer to anything on LinkedIn as art, but
Right.
like there really are some people who do post some good and interesting stuff, right, with actual writing craft of that. So there's people who treat it like that. As much as I post like satire and humor and shit like that, I do kind of view it as like that mixture of art and business. And then you got other people who just are totally okay with just putting their AI generated stuff up there and don't really think twice about it. So LinkedIn probably does actually have an AI slop problem. So
I find that most founders' content is really boring because they're always doing like status updates of like we just hired someone new, or we're hiring someone, or we're going to this conference, and there really isn't any like depth to anything that they're saying. And I think that part of it is because they're insecure because they probably are running companies that are, I don't know, some of them are running companies that if they say something wrong, their stock could get fucked up or something like that. Unless you're fucking Elon Musk and you don't give a shit about anything and you're just like off the fucking like loose cannon. So I don't know. I think that there needs to be a little bit more like founders need to head more towards Elon. I don't think they should be like completely unhinged like him, but at the same time, have like a point and don't be so fucking boring. Like you're a leader. Like that's the part that's like really interesting to me. Like the leaders are the most boring ones out of all of them. Like some of the CEOs are like, have nothing to say. I just wonder how they get to that position to begin with. Like when they're like so boring at that level.
Yeah, that's interesting what you said, Mike, because it is like an art. And like I think that we probably used to see posting online as more of an art before it became so common. Like I remember when I was 23, I think, I like wrote this whole blog basically like coming out about having had an eating disorder. And I've been working on it for like months. And when I put it online, I felt like I was like, oh, this is like such a big deal. Cause like at the time, like, yeah, people posted on like Facebook and stuff, but I didn't really know anybody that was like writing online and like putting their work out there online. So it kind of was like it felt like more of an art. I was like, oh, I'm like posting this like big story, and then that like got me into journalism, and so for a long time, I very much saw writing online as like an art form. I was like, it's like journalism, you know, like you have something to say, and you're like crafting the argument or your point, and like how are you going to articulate it? And I think we've veered so far from that just because posting online is so accessible and there's so many platforms and there's now AI slop and like people post just to post, like people are like I have to be present, or like I got to keep my followers growing or whatever, so sometimes people post shit that you're just like I don't know who cares about that, but it is like at its core, it is like an art form. Like it's journalism in a way, or it's like a blog in a way. It's just so common. We've come to see it kind of differently now. But I think what you're saying, Jer, is interesting because I think when I think about like the stuff that I've posted online that I think has been like my best work, it's always come from a place of like a really strong belief or opinion. And if I was in a position where I was writing on behalf of a company or a brand, I might not have published those things because there might have been somebody that might have got upset about them. Like if I was already a journalist when I posted that bulimia blog, my editor might have been like, "Hey, like they might have had something to say about it." Or like when I worked my last corporate role, I remember like that company very much cared about how they came across, and I've spoken to people who were in like the ghostwriting program we all did that like really had a lot of guardrails put around them about like what they could post online. Their job is like, hey, I know you have this like side business thing, but make sure that you're not posting about it too much because like you're representing our brand. And I think the higher you get up in a company, from what I've seen, the worse that gets. Because if you're like a junior copywriter, you only represent the company so much. But if you're the CEO, they think you represent the company a lot. So there's even more guardrails about like what they're comfortable you posting if you're like a representative of that brand.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's where content really starts to get boring, is when you're under the corporate umbrella, and you're kind of posting this like you know it's supposed to be from a personal brand perspective, but really it's just it's got no personality because you're fitting in with such tight parameters and stuff. And yeah, like I think it was Jeremy that said like some of the founders are the most boring, right? Like I'm talking to a prospect right now, and actually what he does is super interesting. He's in private equity, and like so he'll be in deals like buying like huge companies and stuff, and like pooling other people's money together and all this, right? Like and that has the potential to be super interesting. And if you think about it, the more raw and off the cuff a person like that actually is, the more interesting it could be, right? What if one of those private equity guys was as loose as I am on the platform? Not to say I'm like the best or whatever, right? But it's like that looseness. Like, wouldn't you like to hear about just like the guy's conversation that he had like over at some meeting, like face-to-face meeting, where like the deal didn't work out and things got like heated or something? Like that would make for really interesting content. But they tend to, sometimes these guys tend to want to take a less risky approach, for sure. And that comes with a bit of a cost, a bit of a trade-off, like playing it safe. So
I saw actually someone post something yesterday, and I think this is probably going to be a pattern that we see further in the future, where some companies are actually incentivizing people like to post about the company, and whoever gets the most engagement will get some sort of reward. I don't know why companies don't like build more of a structure of what you can and can't post or whatever within their organization, and encourage people to actually post, because I think a lot of people want to post, they just don't have the direction from their leadership on like what they can and can't do. And I know from my own personal experience, when I was a marketing director, they were trying to tell me what I could and couldn't post, and like telling me to like post certain things about the company. And like, since you're a director, we expect you to post more content about like our product and things like that. And I kind of had a little bit of a problem with it, and I pushed back on the CEO about it. And I actually complained to HR, and ended up getting me. That was part of the reason I got laid off. So I don't recommend doing that, because I think that the more you push back on certain things, like I was naive thinking that HR is like for the employee. It's not. It's for like the company. And no matter what, they'll always defend the company. And if you like push back on leadership, they'll just like can you, most likely.
Yeah, I think that's like a pretty telltale sign that you've got the entrepreneurial drive, because when in my experience, and like I've heard a lot of other people talk about this too, like when you are somebody that's like, you're a thinker, you're like, I'm willing to say if something doesn't make sense to me, I'm willing to say if I disagree, I'm like thinking bigger sometimes. That doesn't always work in the
Oh
corporate
yeah.
setting, where they're like, but this is what we do and these are the rules and this is the way it's been. I remember at my last corporate role, we basically like, we were a company that manufactured like sports supplements. So it's like protein powders and pre-workouts and stuff like that. And we basically had two brands, and they were the exact same products, but one brand was catered for athletes and branded that way. And then the other brand was catered more for like the everyday person. And we had one of our biggest athletes came by one time, and we were like filming some content in office, and then she wanted to take a picture in front of this wall where like we had all the products laid out. So there was the athlete brand right next to the everyman brand. And typically we didn't show that. Like they were marketed online as two completely different brands. We never posted content where we showed both of them. But she posted this picture herself of her sitting in front of this product wall where you could see both brands. And my higher up in marketing got so upset with me that I let her post that because she's like, we would never post this. We don't mix the two brands ever. And I was like, why does that matter? I was like, somebody could easily research us and easily find out that we make both. Like, why is it a secret that we manufacture both products? I was like, I truly don't understand why this is a big deal at all. Like, if anything, I think this post will do well because people will be like, whoa, I know both these brands. Like, holy shit, I didn't know that they came from the same company. Like, it just, I was like, I think this is going to be a really good post. Like, who fucking cares? And that was like one of the first times I was like, man, I hate corporate bullshit.
Well, it
Like,
feels like you're walking on
this,
eggshells to the point you can't experiment at all. It feels like
yeah.
you suck so dry that like you can't even have like a personality.
I was like, I
Yeah.
mean, this isn't anything big. I was like, this is just a real post. Like, who cares? This isn't like some top secret thing where like nobody can ever find out that we manufacture both of these brands.
Yeah.
It doesn't fucking matter. Like, oh my god, transparency? What the fuck? What's that? It's still to this day. I was like, it still to me is not something that seems like a big deal. But she was just very focused on like, no, it's the branding. We keep the brand separate. I'm like, this is stupid. Why does this matter? Like I'm trying to make us content that actually gets engagement. Like who cares?
This is also why the little guy, the independents, like can actually kill it on social media, while the big brands kind of do not for the most part. You know what I mean? And when they do, when they have any personality at all, they really stand out. It's like I'll use the example of like the Wendy's. I don't even like I didn't follow it too closely or whatever, but apparently like with Wendy's, they had like a certain social media manager who was kind of like a little like sassy or whatever, had a little bit more attitude and humor in the comments. Did you guys ever hear about that?
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah. Like she was actually funny and like witty, and you know, she'd respond to people and like crack jokes and stuff like this for Wendy's, a big brand, right? So if they do go a little more loose, they actually really have an advantage, right? But it's why you'll see like some agency owner has, you know, he'll have some post that gets like 1,000 likes or something like this, but like the big brand who just posts like a flyer or like some poster of their deals for the week or something, that's not going to drive a bunch of engagement. It's pretty boring.
Chipotle actually had one, which I thought was pretty interesting because it's a publicly traded company. It's pretty huge, and they had something on their social media. I don't know if you've ever seen like in Teslas they have that thing that don't worry, the dog's fine, 70 degrees inside, because people will break windows to like make sure, which I'm glad that people will do just to make sure the animals are safe. So like Chipotle had one where it was like a guy in the car and they're like, don't worry, my boyfriend is fine. Like he has a Chipotle burrito or some shit like that. And I thought that that was hilarious and clever because I'm like, yes, like finally, like a big brand is acting like a fucking normal person.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say something. Um yeah, when I worked for that company, the post that we did where it was just like product placements, like never performed that great. Like I think we had like 30,000 followers and the average post might get like 10, 20 likes or something. But then we had a whole network of like affiliates who were either like athletes or like fitness influencers or like food bloggers who would make recipes with the products. And they one of their requirements was they had to do one post every month, like showing our products basically. Those posts would always do better than ours because there was a personality in it. Like they were like, and I always encourage them like, don't feel like you need to do some stiff weird branded post. Like do your thing and just incorporate the product into it. So there was this one chick who like would always post videos of her like doing backflips and stuff on the trampoline. And she would like post a video of her like doing a backflip on the trampoline, and then like our product was like bouncing on the trampoline with her. Like just weird shit like that where like when they do that UGC content, it always did better than just like our AI pictures where like the products placed in there. Like there's like brand representation, which a lot of companies do, and then there's posts that actually perform well, and they're almost never the same thing.
Yeah.
I know from
Yeah.
my experience that a lot of the times, like when I've worked with CEOs that are just very stiff and just like holding on so tight, and like they bring an energy that makes you like want to take less risk because you're worried about your job. And I feel like it's like kind of like a cultural thing where like some companies are like, let's like build fast and break shit, and other companies are like, oh, let's like make sure that we're like moving very slow, like an old school organization or whatever. And I don't know. I feel like culture is, and there's also like bigger companies like Liquid Death, like that's like a pretty big company, and their whole entire thing is all about humor. So it's like they have fun with their shit. So I don't know. I think there's something to that.
Yeah. There's the classic examples. I mean, even mentioning Gary V. He's kind of the guy who popularized the idea of a personal brand. That said, though, he does it really well. Like he just does it. He does it so well because he's a character and a personality almost first in a way, and then he also has his like business related content and stuff where he brings you like right into the business, right? Like he'll have some episode where he's like consulting with a client or something like this, talking to them about their brand, right? But the first time I ever found out about Gary V, it was a video of him out in the streets of New York and saying that he wants to make Monday his bitch, right? So this is why I say like he was kind of a personality and a character like first, even what he did with like Wine Library, right? Like his dad had like this liquor store, like wine store and stuff, and then he brought it online with Wine Library, and he had this show where he would taste the wines and describe them in really interesting, in kind of different types of ways and stuff that were like not the norm. And but he was like I didn't watch that show a lot, but I'll see clips of it and stuff, and he was so entertaining even on that show. Another guy is Andy Frisella. Andy Frisella is like a huge entrepreneur, like, and he's got I think it's called the Real AF podcast, right? A lot of people would know him from that, but he's actually, I think he does something like maybe 500 million or somewhere between 200 and 500 million revenue per year across his like 6 or 7 companies that he owns. And he's another example though, when you see him on that podcast, he's got so much personality, so much character. And he's an example of somebody who takes some risks too, because he gets all into like his politics and all that, right? But for someone like me who actually has similar political beliefs to him, well, I know about his brand First Form, and I don't use like protein supplements and stuff. But if I was looking for one, I probably would go to his brand. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember like when we all did Dakota's ghostwriting or personal branding program. I remember one of the biggest things that I took from that was to like, if you want to build a brand or a personal brand, you kind of have to lean into like being polarizing. And I don't like, I think when people think about being polarizing, they're like, okay, so I have to say controversial shit, and that's not necessarily it. It's just that you have to be willing to like stand for the things you actually stand for and not worry what everybody's going to think about them. Because so I interviewed somebody a few weeks ago who basically went from like within the span of about 18 months, she went from earning about 10K a month to about 18 months later her business did over 600K in a year. And I was like, okay, so what actually like changed for you in that time? And she said that like one of the biggest things was that she had basically been like the head coach in somebody else's program, and then realized after a while that she didn't want to work with that guy anymore. They had really different views on life, business. I think COVID kind of like split a divide between them because he was very like pro vaccine and she was like, I was very like not for the vaccines. And that kind of caused a crack in our relationship, but it also kind of pushed me to be like, I could just do this for myself. And she said that her content online and her brand really like blew up when she just started posting what she actually thought. And especially around COVID, where like the whole, vaccine thing was very divisive, people felt very strongly about it. She was like, I had like resisted because she at the time was like a naturopathic doctor or coach or something. And she's like, I kind of always like restrained myself from posting what I actually thought and what I wanted to say because I just didn't want people to disagree with me. But when that happened with this partner, where I was like, okay, I strongly disagree with what this guy's saying. I think I need to go do my own thing. And I just started like sharing what I actually thought and like what my research showed. And I started being willing to say that, like, I don't support the vaccines. She fucking blew up and she was like, yeah, a lot of people did disagree with me, but I also like found my people who strongly agreed with me. And then when she put out her first coaching program, she ended up getting like twice as many people as she could handle. So she's like, my first time launching this coaching program, I had a wait list because I just like actually like stepped up into being who I already am and saying what I actually want to say. So I think that's the difference between like being polarizing for the sake of just like having something to say and then saying the things that you actually stand by that are a little bit polarizing. And I think that's where personal brands have the advantage because a, corporate brand is probably going to do everything they can to not be polarizing. But I think the ones that are and can kind of like lean into it with a little bit of humor and be like, this is what we actually stand for, usually get talked about more. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but actually, Mike, you might have because I know you're Canadian. Um, I think it's Dunkin' Donuts, Dunkin' Donuts or Robin's Donuts. One of them is like coming back to Canada. And their whole campaign was, we're going to hire 10,000 native Canadians for our employees.
Oh,
And
damn.
anybody who knows that that's a dig at Tim Hortons because Tim
Yeah.
Hortons is notorious for being completely staffed by immigrants everywhere now. Like when I was growing up, you walked into a Tim Hortons and it was a lot of like high school kids. Like it was a very common like young person place to work. You walk into a Tim Hortons now and it's basically all like in East Indian people.
Yeah.
And
Dunkin'
think
Donuts,
about
are they American?
um Dunkin' Donuts or Robin's Donuts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I I
It,
honestly don't know.
it's
Huh.
interesting either way, whether they're Canadian or they're American. If they're American, that's also interesting. But if they're Canadian doing that, like, yeah, there's a lot of Canadians who are really gonna like that.
Yeah. And it's a polarizing take. I honestly don't know. I'm honestly torn if it's Dunkin' Donuts or Robin's Donuts. If it's Robin's, I believe Robin's Donuts is Canadian, and they
Yeah.
kind of fizzled out, and you stopped seeing them everywhere, and Tim Hortons kind of took over, and then maybe now they're coming back. But I just thought like number one, that's a ballsy campaign,
Yeah.
but it's ballsy in the sense that like it's gonna have people feeling something and saying something. So I thought that was kind of entertaining.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting one.
Yeah, you should never force polarization. I don't like myself. I don't think I've ever tried to be polarizing. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. I actually remember back in Dakota's program, or actually, no, it wasn't even Dakota's program yet. I was a part of another program, the program where I actually met Dakota. And on one of his like Twitter growth calls, I think he had a guest one week. And I asked this guest because this guy was a guy who had some more polarizing takes on Twitter and stuff. And I was seriously asking this for myself because I wanted his take on where do you draw the line, like with polarizing content? Because I knew I had like a lot of stuff I could say that I believed in that was polarizing. I'm like, where do you draw the line though? Because I mean, I have a lot of polarizing takes, but some of them probably would not be very productive for me to post. In fact, I might turn away too many people, right? And his answer, I think, was pretty on point, is that the people that you're trying to reach, right? The people that you're trying to work with, would they be like, would they support that? Would they be into that? Now, of course, that just kind of sounds like maybe you're conforming a little bit too much, but ultimately, your ideal client should be probably somebody that you do resonate with in that way. So the line is, it probably stops at like, yeah, you wouldn't say anything that's going to completely drive away all your business, because like, what are you doing here in the first place? You're probably here for business, right? So, but yeah, you can say things that push away the people that you would never want to work with in the first place.
I try to stay away from politics in general, just because like I don't know, like if you're not politically aligned with someone, like it could like really like be hard to get along after a while. Like I don't know if you start talking about politics or whatever, and then that becomes a thing or whatever. So I almost feel like that one is like something I try to just, I don't even like watch the news anymore myself, just because it's like doom scrolling, and like I'm just gonna get super frustrated with our government and like how stupid they are. So like like it's one of those things where it's just hard to like not get super fucking pissed off like when you start looking at that stuff. So I don't even look at the news.
Yeah.
Did you
I
hear about
also
Fauci though? Did you hear about Fauci?
I did not. What happened?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Fauci is in like the, I don't know. For a Canadian, it would be like, I think, Supreme Court or something. Anyway, he's like, he's in the courthouse or something like this, being like pressured because he pled the fifth all throughout COVID and wouldn't talk about certain things, and now like they've come after him after 6 years, and there's all this stuff about COVID that is coming out, right? And they're specifically going after Fauci though, as if he's the only one, right? I kind of knew that they would do this though. They're like using Fauci as some sort of scapegoat, throwing little Fauci under the bus, when it's like obviously there's people behind him, above him, working with him, below him. Yeah. Anyway, no politics.
yeah. No, I don't care. I mean, I think I feel like I'm somebody that like it's pretty hard for somebody to have an opinion that like just straight up offends me. Like I'm always interested to hear in like people's perspectives, and like if somebody has a take that's like I don't relate to at all, I'm not somebody that like gets defensive or like starts hating that person. I'm like, really? Like help me understand that, cuz I see it so differently. But I've realized that most people are not that way, and most people will just like form an opinion about you like that and then just decide that they don't like you. So I've kind of learned that like when you're in spaces with people like this where like you're like, "Oh, I know that like I could talk to these people about anything and we could probably turn it into an engaging conversation," then that's cool. But I think I've learned that like there's some things that you really just don't need to talk about on the same platform where you talk about your business. Like I'm sure we all have, opinions and takes and whatever that we're like, I feel no need to share this with my clients because it's like this one's just for me, or it's just for, me and my friends, or the people who like really know me the best. And I think that's where people like when you're kind of developing your personal brand and you're testing out different content and you're testing out like different things to talk about. I've definitely made this mistake before, and I think people can because they're just like dabbling and they're like, what do I want to talk about? How do I be polarizing? Like, how do I connect with more of my people? Sometimes people can cross that line and then realize, okay, maybe I don't need to talk about that. Like, maybe that can be something I believe and something I talk about in another outlet, but maybe it doesn't need to be part of my brand, you know?
Yeah, the question is not how can I be more polarizing? It is what do I believe in that pertains to my brand on this platform, like that actually works like for me. And like, I mean, I actually thought about how you, Kelsey, have put out some posts in the past that ended up being polarizing, that I feel like you didn't go into it to try and be polarizing. It was like an accident. It was like an accident. And then afterwards you're like, holy shit, I can't believe people found that so polarizing. I like, to me that's normal. I feel like that was the sweet spot where it's something you believe that you consider to be normal, that just because people are so sensitive these days, some people will react very negatively towards that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's kind of a bit of a downfall, honestly, that so many people are so like easily offended today, to the extent that like they get so easily triggered and then they form an opinion about you without actually trying to understand at all like where you're coming from or what your point is. Like some people just form a snap opinion about you and you're like, "Oh, I didn't even think that you would take it that way." And I've ran into that a few times, and I've had people say things to me like, "You should be more inclusive with your writing." And I'm like, I can't possibly have an opinion or share an opinion and try to make every single person out there agree with me. I can't do that because people are going to take things in their own way. They're going to spin it based on their own experience and personality, and they're going to judge it in their own way. And I can't predict all the ways that people are going to interpret and judge what I say. But I think it's taught me that, going back to what we said before, that like if I'm going to post an opinion online, I think it's best to know like, hey, do I really stand for this? Because people are gonna like come at this, and what's the reason I stand for it? Because people just spin things in all kind of directions that you can't even predict sometimes. Like you're like, I didn't
See that at all.
even think that this was offensive at all, but that's interesting that you took it that way. Okay.
It's almost like a good song too. Like I mean, if it's a good lyricist, for example, you're gonna have your own meaning to that song, and that artist might not even. It could be just a bunch of random shit. And I think that's kind of like how we all interpret things. But I think that as a writer or creator, one of the hardest parts I had was like wanting to be understood and like being like, okay, like I didn't mean that, and like trying to explain myself instead of just being like, fuck it, this is like whatever I came up with, and you could have your own fucking opinion on what you think it is, and I'll have mine. So I don't know. I think being okay with that and not like letting it get it in the way of like being creative, I suppose, and like worrying about like, oh, am I going to offend someone or am I going to piss someone off or whatever. I don't know. I think that that's really hard when you're starting out, and I don't remember what that's like because it's been so long. I don't really give a shit anymore. But at some point, that was like that.
Yeah, 100%.
You kind of lose your like. I guess I'm sure that you guys are the same. You just kind of stop giving a fuck over time after you've posted so much, and you kind of look at it more like an experiment and just like, I think people just get so wrapped up into their identity and like wanting to like look good or have status, and they're like, if this is chipping away at my status because it's making me look bad, that's why it's such a weird thing for like beginners, because they're like they want to come across a certain way and they want to control their frame, but it's kind of hard when you don't have the laps and experience to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Well, I think in the beginning too, you just like take things more personally. Like when you first start putting yourself out there online and you're like, "Hey, I'm going to build this personal brand." And you're still figuring out like what points you stand for and what you want to be part of your brand, and you've like, at least for me, it felt like a bigger deal in the beginning when I started like sharing stuff about myself and being like, this is what I've been through, this is the journey I'm on, this is what I'm learning. Like it is like putting you out there. And I think in the beginning, as with anything, it's going to feel harder and heavier and you're going to take it more personally. But then with reps, you kind of become like a bit callous to it and you're like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like,
Yeah.
trolls are going to come, people are going to disagree, people are going to misinterpret what I say, they're going to spin shit in their own way. You like, it's like anything, you just get used to it and you become a little bit hardened to it, and then it kind of just stops phasing you. I think it's the same as any other thing in life that you put reps into.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys follow Tyler Dank? I've been enjoying his content, the guy that created Beehive. because he actually talked about like how he runs a newsletter on top of Beehive and he makes $400,000 a year off of his advertisements. And I was like, holy shit. Like that's like most people don't earn that kind of money, right? And he's doing it off of a side project of Beehive. But he's also talking about like a lot of the experiments that he's running there and a lot of things that he's doing from a business perspective. And they've raised money and he's a young guy. So I think it's really interesting, like when he's kind of giving us more of an insight of like what he's doing. Like he had a post the other day that talked about him going on vacation and then he couldn't like really check out because he was worried about all these different moving parts that he had going on. Yeah. So I think that he's a pretty smart marketer the way he's doing it. I think that we're going to start seeing more people like him that are like up and coming entrepreneurs that are just more social.
Yeah, I actually don't. I don't follow that guy right now, but maybe I'll follow him.
I think Dakota knows him because he brought him in one time to Growth Ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I knew.
Go ahead.
I knew exactly who you were talking about there when you said that name.
Yeah. I did. He had a little like I think it was like $1,000 little coaching program about how to start a newsletter. So that was actually how I started my original Inspired Idiots newsletter, was using Beehive. So yeah, I kind of got to know him a little bit through doing that. But yeah, it's crazy. It was like him and another dude, just like two young guys, started Morning Brew together and then sold it for like 75 million or some shit.
Jesus.
It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are killing it.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Pretty dope.
That's like when you don't need to work anymore. And I don't know, do you think you guys would still work if you didn't need money anymore? Like if like, I don't know, like AI got to the point where we didn't need to do our jobs anymore for whatever reason. I would still need something to fucking do.
I would honestly probably be doing what I'm doing now. Like I'd still be interviewing people.
That's a good place to be then.
I know. That was like what I think I might have told you guys this story before, but like I'd been, running my agency, doing it for like 3 years and just kind of like interviewing people on the side just cuz like as I was figuring out business and meeting other people who were like farther along than me, I would just ask them like, "Hey, can I just interview you cuz I just want to learn like how you got to where you are." And it started as like purely for me, and then I would write about it in the newsletter, and then I was like, okay, I don't know what this is yet, but like I'm just going to keep doing it. But it wasn't super consistent. And then it was like probably in the fall of last year of 2025, I saw this quote somewhere and it said rich is less about money and more about getting paid to do what you would gladly do for free. And I was like, it was like a fucking like switch went off in my brain, and I was like, why the fuck am I not building my business or building an offer around interviewing people? I've been doing it for free for 3 years. So yeah, if I feel like if tomorrow there was $10 million in my bank account, I would just be interviewing people. Like maybe I wouldn't charge it anything. Maybe I would just do it completely for free, and I'd like bring somebody awesome in to produce it so it's like actually good. Because right now the edits are like pretty raw, but yeah, I just like asking people questions and like understanding like how'd you do this cool thing that you did, and then breaking it down for other people that are like me and just like don't understand.
Kind of reminds me of Steve Jobs had a speech at Stanford about like dying and death, and he talked about getting fired from like Apple after he had already started it. And he was saying that like every morning he'd wake up and ask himself like, would I be happy with myself if I died today? And like that question alone would be like, all right, like if I'm doing something I don't enjoy and I'm continuing to do that for a long enough period, like I need to fucking make a change. And I thought that was like, the Stoics contemplate death a lot too. And I don't do it to be morbid or anything. I just do it to be like for urgency and to be like, what the fuck am I doing? And am I making like active steps daily towards like my goals? And I don't know, because I think a lot of the times too, it's easy to get caught up in your moods. Like if like you're like, I don't know, like last night I went to a concert. I was telling Mike before we started in Ojai, I saw Santi Gold, and I got like 4 hours of sleep last night or whatever. And like those days where you don't get sleep, like you don't feel great, you don't necessarily like want to go live and do these things or whatever, but you still fucking do it and you still do whatever you can to like move the needle. But it's super easy, I think, to get caught up in do you guys ever get caught up in your moods? You're like, oh fuck it, I don't like feel like doing anything today, and I feel like I'm just going to take it easy, or whatever. I know Mike's a bit of a savage though, because I feel like you're always working, Mike, and you too, Kelsey. Actually, both of you guys.
if I catch myself in well, interestingly, if I am in that kind of mood, I mean, there's certain things I will always still do, right? I'm always every single day I'm going to post on LinkedIn, regardless of anything, right? Um, yeah. Um, but it's interesting. And I once posted here on Substack. I said, if you had 5 million in the bank, would you still be offering the same service you offer now at the same price you're currently offering it at? So it's interesting that like Kelsey was like, maybe I'd still do this, but I'd do it for free. I could also see that it would go the other way too, like that you might still do a certain thing, but you might just charge more for it. And
Yeah.
interestingly, when I posted that, there were people who I remember there's one guy in particular who really didn't understand that, or at least he was acting like he didn't get it. It's like, no, if your price should stay the same or something like this. It does not become more valuable just because you value your time more. But I kind of disagree, because actually there are people who just like they literally offer the same service, but just because they hold themselves to a higher standard and believe in their service more and have more self-respect, they charge more. And
Yeah.
guess what? Clients are actually willing to pay it because it also expresses a certain level of like confidence, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, there's people, um, who have a successful business, but they do something like that, like interviewing other founders or something like this. And yeah, and maybe some of them do it for free, but some of them probably turn into a high ticket service because they don't need to be doing it. So if they're going to do it, like they got to price it so it makes sense.
I also feel like if you had that much cash too, like I would have like a sick ass studio and like have it all in person interviews, like Diary of the CEO style,
Yeah.
and then like have
Yeah.
freelance like editors, and I think it would like almost like build on itself, because if you had that kind of money and you had that like passion, like there's no way that like it wouldn't like become something great.
Yeah, I think like for context, so we're about to start building our house, and when our project manager was getting bids for the concrete job, we had one company say that they would do it for 42,000, and then we had another company say they'd do it for 75,000. Same job, same square footage. And he's like, "Yeah, so this second company, this guy's been doing it for like 50 years. This is his like fuck you, I don't need this job pricing." And he's like, "People will pay that if they just specifically want to hire this guy." But he's gotten to that point in his career where he sets his price cuz he's like, "I'm good. I don't need this job. If you want me to do it, this is my price." So I disagree with that comment that you got on that post, Mike, because I mean, that's him thinking about it purely from like the client's perspective of like, why should I pay more for the same thing? It's like, well, it's not the same thing. It's you're paying more for the experience of working with me because of what I bring to the table, and this is what I charge for my time to do that. So I didn't feel like resentful at all to that second concrete guy. I was like, fuck, good for you, man. Like you clearly don't need this job. We're not
Yeah,
picking you because you're like double the other guy, and like as long as the concrete's good, I don't really care about getting the $75,000 guy. But yeah, I agree with you, Jeremy. Like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't feel like if I had, let's say 5-10 million dollars in the bank tomorrow, I probably wouldn't feel any kind of pressure to get interview clients. So that would like take a lot of it off of me, and I'd probably be happy to still do it for free, but I'd also probably invest way more into it to make it fucking dope, so that if I wanted to charge way more, I can like give a way better experience. Like I could have the clips back to them in under a week instead of 30 days. I could have infinitely better production. I could fucking fly them out to come get interviewed in the greenhouse or some shit. Like I could ball out of control with it. So I don't know what I do, but be somewhere in between.
congrats on your property, by the way. I'm pumped for you. What was that, the foundation that you guys are working on, or and you guys are doing it all in pieces, or like kind of one step at a time, or
So the house they're breaking ground next week, which is fucking crazy to think about.
congratulations.
Um
Fuck yeah.
Thank you. And basically they're handling like the buttoning up of the house. So like the concrete, all the foundation work, the framing, the roof, putting in the doors and windows, and then basically everything from there, like interior wise, we're probably gonna do ourselves, just because
Save money.
money. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, we're not gonna try to learn how to frame a house ourselves. We'll
Oh,
leave
hell
that one to the pros. But yeah, I mean, basically, they're gonna start next week, and the plan is that the house is gonna be done like in about a month, which is fucking
oh wow.
wild.
That's fucking crazy fast. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yep. It's a little overwhelming to think about, but because I mean, basically, because it's happening so fast, we're basically just going to be cutting huge checks like probably every week for August. So
Oh,
it's hard to imagine like how much I'm going to be like working in August, because it's going to be a lot, but it's exciting.
I think the one thing that's cool about what you're doing though is once you have your shelter and like things like that, like that's like one big thing that you'll never really have to worry about again, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, like once we, 'cause we have like some lines of credit out for it, so the priority once the house is done will be like to get those paid off ASAP. But yeah, I mean, no mortgage. That's the goal.
Oh hell yeah.
Mortgage free life.
That's
And
fucking
is the plan to make it also like, is it going to have like a business side to it as well? Where I think there was something like that. What's the plan there?
Yeah, so at first we will work out of the house, like our business office will be in the house, and then the goal is to build the greenhouse on the land, like the greenhouse business, and make like a content studio in it and stuff. Because we have like 23 acres.
damn.
So that's the tropical greenhouse will be like further back in the property.
It's pretty dope. I would love like if I had a lot of money one day to buy like more property and then like put like a bunch of fucking like I don't know, like a little village, like 5 or 6 like little cabins or something on it, and then rent them all out and have like a little community center or something like that. That'd be sick. You
Yeah,
need money though.
that's
Or
something we've talked about, of like doing either like glamping or some kind of like
yeah,
Airbnbs on the property at some point. That'll be like a
could
later
you,
thing, but the process begins with us having somewhere to live.
could you do that in Canada? Is it like do people camp glamp in the cold out there, or is that only like seasonal?
I mean, you probably not so much in the winter. You could do it if you had like the winter tents, but no, it'd probably be more of a warm season thing. I have to hop off though, guys. I have a sales call,
Sounds
but
good.
I'm glad that
Right.
I was able to hop on.
Yeah, good seeing you guys. I'll see you guys next week.
All
Peace.
See
right,
you.
see you guys.